The court said last week that it is illegal to collect all of your phone records all of the time without a warrant with your name on it. I call on the president today to immediately end the bulk collection of our phone records.
When it comes to fighting terrorism, our government is not the enemy. And we should not be listening to people like Edward Snowden, who is a criminal, who has hurt our country and now enjoys the hospitality of Vladimir Putin while sending us messages about the dangers of authoritarian government.
The debate over government surveillance is in full force on the 2016 campaign trail and on Capitol Hill. On June 1st, key provisions of the Patriot Act, most notably on NSA surveillance, are set to expire. And there is a vigorous debate in Congress right now over whether to renew them, especially after the program was ruled illegal by a federal court earlier this month. Last week, the House voted overwhelmingly to end the bulk collection of phone data records. Under the bill the House passed, the USA Freedom Act, phone records will be held by the phone companies, and the NSA will have to obtain a warrant each time it wants to access those records. And now it is up to the Senate to debate the program. Although he is against the USA Freedom Act and earlier tried to prevent a vote, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell announced hours ago that he would allow a vote on it.
Regardless of what the House's position may be, we have an obligation to deal with the Patriot Act. We're going to deal with it this week, and it's my view that letting it expire is not a responsible thing to do. So we'll see where the will of the Senate is. We'll find out where the votes are. I certainly think we ought to allow a vote on the House-passed bill.
Joining me now is a co-sponsor of the Senate bill that would end the NSA's bulk collection of phone records, Republican Senator from Utah, Mike Lee. Senator Lee, thanks for joining me. I know it has been a busy day. Let's get first to the news of the hour. Senator McConnell says he will take a vote on your bill in the Senate. Is it going to pass?
I certainly hope so. We hope we can get to 60 votes on this important issue. The American people don't like to have the federal government collect all of their data on all their phone calls that they've made or received over the last 5 years. That's where we're trying to get. It's going to be close, and we don't know where all of the votes line up right now, but we're trying to get there.
If it doesn't have the votes, would you support a renewal of the Patriot Act or a temporary extension?
I'm not a big fan of the temporary extension. I'd be inclined to oppose a temporary extension. We need to fix the underlying problem rather than just punt it. I just came from the Senate floor where I made a request to have this brought up right now instead of the trade bill. We can take the trade bill up after this. But with the clock ticking and with this bill set to expire, the Patriot Act set to expire at the end of the month, and both houses set to adjourn at the end of this week, I think this needs to come up right now.
Senator, you talk about Americans not wanting the government to collect all kinds of data, especially phone data. There seems to be a divide in your party on this issue in particular. Chris Christie, who is likely running for president in 2016, said on Monday, you can't enjoy your civil liberties if you're in a coffin. What do you say to that line of criticism?
Look, none of us wants to be in that position, but it is a false choice. It is an absolute false choice to say that you either have to reauthorize, to extend the Patriot Act authority as is without modification, without protections for the American people, or we're all going to die. That is a disingenuous comment, and I think he should retract that statement. Look, we have carefully balanced this legislation. Senator Leahy and I come from opposite ends of the political spectrum, but we agree on this issue. The chairman and ranking members of the House Intelligence Committee and the House Judiciary Committee agree, as does the President and the Director of National Intelligence. And as I explained in a book that I just came out with a few weeks ago called Our Lost Constitution, this is an issue that dates back hundreds of years in many respects. In some ways it involves new technology, but in other ways it dates back hundreds of years. As I explained in my book, one of the principles that the Founding Fathers agreed upon was that the government shouldn't be engaged in the use of general warrants, just going out and saying, send us all your information in case we might want to search it later for some kind of investigation. That's wrong. The American people don't like that. This bill would fix that.
Let me ask you a question. There's been a lot of debate about Edward Snowden. In many ways, the reason we know about this program is because of him. Chris Christie has maligned him. He says he has been dangerous to our democracy. Do you think that this effort, that in the information from the decision by the New York Federal Circuit Court, do you think that vindicates Edward Snowden?
I don't think anything that the Second Circuit concluded vindicates anyone else in breaking the law. But I will say that I agree with what the Second Circuit concluded, and I agreed with its reasoning in saying that you can't take the reasonableness standard found in Section 215 of the Patriot Act, which authorizes the NSA to collect data that is related to, that's relevant to an investigation in this area, and say that that justifies the NSA in collecting all telephone data from every telephone provider in the country. It simply does not follow, and the Second Circuit was right.
You mentioned that you thought Chris Christie should retract what he said about you can't enjoy your civil liberties if you're in a coffin. Are you disappointed with the statements thus far from the majority of Republican candidates in the 2016 field on the issue of surveillance in particular?
I disagree with some of them. I don't know where they all stand, to be honest. But I will say there are some with whom I disagree. But I particularly disagree with what Mr. Christie has said. I think it's simply wrong. It's unnecessarily inflammatory to say you've got to choose between either reauthorizing this law, which is controversial, which offends a lot of people's sense of the law, sense of the Constitution, and sense of what the government ought to be doing. You've got to choose between that or death. That's wrong, as a matter of fact, and I think it's imprecise, and I think it's demeaning of the political process in which we ought to have an open, honest discussion based on facts rather than emotion.
Senator, I think there are a lot of people that are happy that an open debate is happening on the floor of Congress. Senator Mike Lee, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Coming up.